They say we live two lives, the one we're living and the one we wish we were. The second one begins the moment we realize that we only get one shot. This is for anyone standing in that uncomfortable in-between, trying to figure out how to move towards something meaningful without losing themselves in the process. And by in between, I don't mean some vague inspirational gap. I'm talking about that specific friction that shows up when you've got creative instincts, but nowhere to put them. When you see what's possible, but you have zero structure on how to get there. When you've built a life that technically works, but no longer fits. Especially if you're over 40, you feel the clock ticking, and waiting can start to feel worse than the idea of failing. It's that moment you realize I'm living somebody else's version of my life. And if I don't start building the one I actually want, I might never get to. So I'm an American who's lived in Germany longer than I ever lived in the States. But I grew up with this shiny idea of follow your passion, right? Freedom, joy, do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. But the Germans' word for passion is Leidenschaft, which literally means the ability to endure. And honestly, that might be a better definition, because after years of following my passion in different directions through obsession and reinvention and everything in between, I've learned the truth. It's both. The joy and the discipline, the hunger and the structure, the leap and the bridge that you have to build midair. And even though my life has been anything but conventional, it's still hard as hell to let go of this identity that you've built in order to reach for the one that fits you more now. And sometimes you have to stop and ask yourself, is this who I am or just who I'm used to being? Letting go of that old version, it can be like packing away your favorite teddy bear. Sweet, sad, and honestly a little bit terrifying. But if you're in that in-between where the life you've built technically works, but it just doesn't fit anymore, you're not alone. But the thing is, you're probably looking for a map when you should be looking for a compass. I get it. We all want the shortcut, the mentor or magic insight that's going to bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. But here's the thing. No one is starting from your exact position. The best thing to do is figure out where you want to go and then what you need to get there. You have to start with that. Then the map will draw itself, but only from point to point and not in a straight line either. The messy, uncertain stretch isn't just logistical, it's creative. It's part of the process. There's a shape to it, even if it doesn't feel that way when you're right in the middle of it. It usually starts with preparation. These questions that you're wrestling with that you can't quite answer. Why am I so unhappy? What do I actually want? What would I do if I didn't care what other people thought? I know because I was wrestling with these exact same things when I was deciding to relaunch my acting career. You don't always get clarity right away, but just sitting with those questions kicks something into motion. And at some point, you get a flicker of insight. It doesn't feel dramatic, but it catches your attention. Then comes the part where you have to test it. You have to take the idea seriously enough to try it out. Because no matter how clear it feels in your head, you don't really know until you do something with it. Sometimes the idea is better than the reality. But of course, you don't know until you start to move towards it. Here's the thing, though. You don't have to burn everything down to follow your passion. You don't need the dramatic leap of faith across the rocky chasm. There's a way to do it that allows for a smooth transition. There's a way to test the waters, testing your ideas while keeping your day job, building skills on the side, creating income streams before you need them. The key is starting small and strategically, not big and risky. So Julie, a child who's always been a big inspiration of mine, she was 32 years old when she had a meal in Paris that changed everything. Now, she was not a natural-born chef. I don't know if you know that or not. She never really cooked before this one meal kind of like set off all of these fireworks in her brain. She didn't just get inspired to go home to dabble in her kitchen. She was on fire, and she threw herself into something completely foreign. She moved across the world to Paris to enroll in the Cordon Bleu, and she committed to the grind of actually mastering it, even when it felt uncomfortable and difficult. The cookbooks, the TV shows, the whole empire, that was not even a glimmer in her imagination. And of course, none of that was guaranteed when she first walked into that cooking school. She just took one step after the other. But she knew that her very first step was to understand food in a way that she never had before. And she was willing to be terrible at something new because it mattered to her. That's the bridge that most people won't cross. The courage to learn something completely new, then stick with it when it gets hard. And honestly, the courage to be in that uncomfortable place of sucking at something. One of the biggest things that holds people back, of course, is the question of how. Julia had the ways and means to move across the world and enroll in one of the top cooking schools in the world. Not everybody does. But the answer, honestly, for everybody else isn't that complicated. Find somebody who can teach you the first thing that you want to learn, because if you're curious about it, other people will be too, and create a space where you all get to learn that thing from that mentor, and then do it again for the next thing. So this does several things at once. You get real answers to your questions, and the answers lead to your next step, which may lead to your next mentor. You meet other people who care about the same thing, which makes the whole process less isolating, and you get to learn on your own terms around your own schedule. This is exactly what I did when I realized that my first step when I wanted to relaunch my acting career was that I was really rusty after not having acted for 16 years. So I created the space to get the training I needed before I could do anything else. And because you're doing the work to find the mentor and organize the space, you can get paid for it. And then you do it again with the next thing you want to learn. The key is gathering different insights from different people who can help you map your next moves. No single mentor is going to have all the answers that you need, but collectively, they can guide you through each stage of your transition. And that's not fantasy, that's strategy, and it works. It's what helped me to not only relaunch my acting career, but as I use this method again and again over the past 14 years to kind of fill every one of my gaps, it got me back working for studios like Netflix, Hallmark, and A24. Kelly, who's one of my clients, was living on the West Coast. She loved comedy, but hated the bro scene of most comedy clubs. So when she moved to the Netherlands with her family, she could have just given up on that part of herself, filed it under things I used to be interested in. But instead, she got curious. What if there was a different way to explore comedy? What if she could create the kind of space she actually wanted to be in? This idea of curating the things that you need, this is what I call the Curator method. And Kelly, who was one of my founding members of the Curator Academy, used it perfectly. She set up her first workshop for women who wanted to learn stand-up comedy. Then she found experienced comedians to teach. She gathered all the women who shared her curiosity and created something that didn't exist before. The result was that she got paid to learn exactly what she wanted to learn. But even more important, she created an instant community of women that she had a lot in common with, while establishing herself as someone who makes things happen in the comedy scene where she lives. She literally leapfrogged over years of establishing herself in a foreign country and jumped right into the scene that she wanted to be a part of. And that's the thing about this approach. You're not just consuming someone else's content or waiting, for someone to show you the way. You're actively building the world that you want to be a part of. Kelly didn't need to know how her whole journey was going to unfold. She just needed that first real step. And that led to real connection with other women who got it, real learning from people who knew what they were doing, and real progress in something that has always mattered to her. And she just started from where she was with what she had and she built something sustainable. So that first workshop led to the next workshop. The need for something more meaningful, something beyond the day-to-day, that's not new. It's probably been baked into humans since, before time. But now you have a way to act on it that doesn't require you risking everything that you've built to have a comfortable life. You just need the courage to start learning and the Leidenschaft to see it through. And if you're ready to take that first step, I've put together something that can help. It's called the Escape Route Playbook, and it'll show you exactly how to identify what you want to learn from the right mentors and start building that bridge to the life that actually fits you. You can grab it in the description below. It's free, it's practical, and it's designed for people who are ready to stop wondering and start building the life that they were actually meant to be living. Because the life that you actually want, it's not going to build itself. I'll see you in the next video.